Right, so you've heard online about how cool Gen 3 OU is, and now it's your turn to see what the hype is about. Of course you're not using sample teams, you're different, right? So you go into the team builder, bring out your UUBL of choice, and hover over the EV slider. And of course, you're just going to stamp out the 252, 252, 4, right? That's all there is to it. Well, welcome to the Speed of ADV-OU, the first part of a three-part series where I'm going to be going over my favourite metagame, Gen 3 OU, and all the subtleties and nuances of its speed. And what better place to start than with the speed stat itself. So, compared to previous generations, Gen 3 added a lot of powerful new options for boosting your speed and strategies involving boosting your speed. So, to balance that out, they made it so that Pokemon couldn't get super broken in their stats department. To be concrete about that, in previous gens you could just max out every stat. That's not the case anymore. You have to choose a nature that boosts and reduces a certain stat. You have to choose where the EVs that you want to go are invested in, so you can't be bulky, strong, and fast. You're going to have to choose one or two of those things. Gen 3 has a very centralized metagame, so this means that there are quite concrete speed benchmarks that a lot of Pokemon are aiming to go faster than, and a lot of bulk benchmarks for living very well understood and commonly calculated hits that you want to maintain as many EVs for as possible. Despite this, new players are going to fit into one of two camps. They're either going to really overthink this stuff and come up with hyper-specific spreads, or they're going to not think at all and just like max the two most important stats. So we're going to start with Snorlax and go all the way up to the fastest. So despite only having 30 base speed, Snorlax does actually run a tiny little bit of investment, and it's to outspeed paralysed base 130 speed Pokemon, which it can achieve with Body Slam. There's not too much to say about this one, but maybe if you were running a slow ghost type like Dusclops or something, you might want to keep this in mind if you're wanting to go faster than Snorlax. Not going to hold you, the slide is mostly about Blissey and Swampert. I just put Fortress here to be mean to it. So standard Swampert is slower than Blissey because it has to go minus speed, since it doesn't want to take out of its attack, defense, or special attack. But if you're going with an offensive Swampert with like Focus Punch, you should probably try and be faster than Blissey so that you can Focus Punch it and then just take it out with Earthquake. Tyranitar has a lot of different speeds that it can run. I would say at the very least you should outspeed Leftovers Swamperts, which at their fastest can be at around 159. You can outspeed Skarmories if you go up to 180, or most Skarmories at least. This lets you limit spikes by threatening to 2-hit KO it with Fire Blast and get Rock Slide flinches and stuff like this. You can outspeed Claydol if you go to 190 speed though, and that's nice for getting like pursuit traps on it potentially, if you're running Crunch and Pursuit. 206 is a nice benchmark for bulkier Dragon Dance Tyranitars, because this lets you go faster than physically defensive Gengar at +1, and base 100 speed Pokemon that aren't a plus speed nature. And then all the way up at max speed, you've got your mixed Tyrannitars that are trying to 1v1 enemy Tyrannitars with Brick Break. And if you stick Dragon Dance on a Tyranitar with this speed tier, it's going to be faster than even Starmie at +1. Skarmory can also creep Claydol and even Milotic if it wants to go super fast. I'd recommend running Taunt on these guys so that you can deny Refresh on both of them. Be wary if you do creep Milotic though, because it's sacrificing a lot of bulk to do this. So you're not going to be able to take Hydro Pumps from Defensive Swampert and Hidden Power Fires from like Leech 3 and Carmine Pass Celebes as well. Metagross has quite a big range in different speeds that it can run, except for Agility, which is just 198, because that's all that you need to outspeed everything at +2. I've put some Mons here on the right for different benchmarks that Metagross can try and achieve. That 160 for mixed is for Swampert if you're wanting to explode or psychic or hidden power grass on them before they have a chance to get you back. Magneton can technically go bulky, but that's kind of a thing of the past. But if you put a Salac Berry on this thing and a positive nature, you're faster even than Dugtrio, and this can let you reversal some pretty annoying mons for physical offense. 244 is a really common speed stat to try and creep because it's faster than Tyranitar. So some examples of this are Cloyster and also Gyarados if it's going Adamant. Cloyster has quite an optimized spread. It can also live Thunderbolt from Timid Offensive Starmie, and it's able to do that whilst also achieving the speed, which is pretty impressive for Cloyster. So these guys also can hang around 244 speed, but they can reliably go faster as well. So Breloom, unfortunately, needs to go Jolly if it wants to outspeed all Tyranitars. And this means that in the lead, it's basically forced to do this. This also means, as a kind of knock-on effect, that offensive Suicunes, if they don't want to get tranked, they're going to have to go all the way up to 263 speed if they want to Ice Beam the Breloom first. For substitute variants, they tend to come down to 244, since 252 of their HP EVs are being hogged in order to make 101 health substitutes for Blissey. If you do go to 244, you are risking speed tying slower and more defensive Leech Seed Celebes, so you might want to come up just a little bit to avoid that. So speaking of fighting types, we've got the faster ones, Heracross and Medicham here, and these guys kind of live in like this weird bizarro jungle where there are no laws and anything could be faster than anything else. If you go Adamant, you're going to be slower than a good amount of base 100s, but then if you go Jolly, there's no guarantee that you're going to be faster than these guys either. You just might be faster than a few more of them. It's kind of scary and annoying for both people in this situation because the way that you check fighting types is with these kind of fast, frail birds or psychic types that don't really want to take whatever other coverage these Pokemon have, and so if they act first, it can be super deadly. So this is a big grid, it looks very intimidating. I'm going to try and simplify it as much as I can to keep things simple and beginner friendly. This grid is basically putting where different base 100 speed Pokemon can go. Also Moltres, because even though Moltres is technically base 90 speed, spiritually it's base 100 in that it is creeping and crept by the same things. So down in slow, you've got base 100 speed Pokemon that are just creeping Tyranitar. They're kind of doing the bare minimum, and that's because they want to invest their EVs into bulk. So these guys will usually have healing in the form of Wish Protect for Salamence and Jirachi, Recover for Celebi, and Rest for Zapdos and Protect for Flygon. In the 270 to 285, this is where you might see bulky setup versions of these Pokemon or mixed attacking variants. So Swords Dance Pass Celebi, a Substitute Pass or mixed Zapdos, mixed Salamence, Dragon Dance Salamence, bulkier Calm-Mind Jirachis such as Wish plus Calm-Mind or Substitute plus Calm-Mind. They could also very well be mixed. And then up in the top end here, you've got more offensive variants of these Pokemon, so maybe offensive Calm-Mind Jirachi, offensive Calm-Mind Celebi, max speed Zapdoses that are just trying to be faster than as many things as they can and aren't as worried about being like a secondary special check. Charizard tends to live up here because it loves getting the jump on all these other base 100 speed Pokemon that might run less speed than it. Moltres can come up here if it wants to make sure to be faster than Heracross and Medicham and stuff. Everything beyond here is what I would consider to be in the kind of revenge KOing territory of ADVOU. There aren't many mons that can truly revenge KO because there's no choice scarf, but Gengar being faster than base 100 speed Pokemon lets it come in after a lot of things die and clean up. Same with Starmie, and that's even faster and it can revenge KO Gengar, which is very nice. But there's a bit of an elephant in the room when talking about revenge KOing, because Gen 3 OU allows Dugtrio to exist, and this guy is the king of revenge KOing with his ability Arena Trap. There's so much that this guy can just trap and KO, including Tyranitar at +1 unless you're very, very bulky. This guy is an absolute menace, and if you want speed control, then Dugtrio is your boy for grounded threats at the very least. But even Dugtrio has to bow to Aerodactyl and Jolteon. These are the ultimate speed control in Gen 3 OU, and every team has to respect them. There's no choice scarf, like I said, so every team, no matter how offensive, is going to have ways of pivoting around and switching directly in on the moves that these Pokemon have, because otherwise you're just toast. Aerodactyl obviously has a fantastic matchup into Dugtrio, but Jolteon is also not as vulnerable as you might expect a grounded electric type to be, because Baton Pass lets it bypass Arena Trap, and this lets it just cleanly switch out and not have to interact with Earthquake. Thank you so much for watching. I just wanted this video to be relatively short and kind of informative for newer players to have more confidence with picking up and playing this tier, but also if they wanted to experiment and come to understand Gen 3 OU a little bit better, I hope that this resource would be a good springboard for that. If you do have any questions or comments about something in this video or about Gen 3 OU in general, please leave them below and I will be more than happy to answer them. Please like and subscribe and, all the YouTube stuff that they force me to say. And have a great one, guys. I'll see you next time.